Welcome back to our anime show. I'm Binge Monster,
And I'm a green queen.
and we wanted to talk a little bit about our first impressions of the fall 2024 anime season. We are both knee deep in catching up on old anime so that we can watch the newest season, aka I'm watching My Hero Academia, she's watching Bleach. With using whatever free time we also have to, of course, watch some of the anime that just came out this season. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about some of the themes that we're seeing in this fall 2024 season, and then we'll wrap up. Why don't we start with you and one of the few shows that you feel like is really like catching your attention and has excited you so far?
Sure. So I'll actually start with one that's completely done now. This is Uzumaki. I was so excited about watching this show. I knew it was only going to be 4 episodes. I was like, oof, the week to week me that has trouble keeping up is going to love this. This is so
Yeah,
attainable. There's so much. I've discussed this on our TikTok and so forth. Like, there's so much behind this title. And,
yeah,
I was like, do I read the manga? Like, what? I just knew that this was a really prolific title. And so I was really excited to watch it. It definitely has gotten a lot of, I'll say, buzz, or like rather
mm.
just criticism. It had a lot of buzz and then it turned into a lot of criticism. The
Oh,
animation of the first episode was truly phenomenal, and
yeah.
it really like drops off in an interesting way throughout the rest of the season. But I still liked it. I still, it's horror. So in horror, often for me, there's a lot of mystery. I think those are just themes in horror. There's a lot of mystery, there's a lot of unknown, and especially in this story, that rings true. So when you're watching it, you're just like at the edge of your seat because you're like, what is going to happen? Why is this
Right.
happening? Why is that happening? Why are they choosing to do this? Blah blah blah. So it has a lot of those like horror tropes in it that I would be interested if it I'm seeing those in the manga. Like, am I gonna read the manga and go, why are you doing that? Like I did when I was watching the anime? Who knows? But all the same, even though the animation does, and it's clear, like this is not me being critical, even though I can be, like it gets real bad. It gets real blocky.
Mm.
It gets real slow. I mean, even the scenes, the text, the lines, you can tell that things are kind of rushed so we can like kind of get to the end of the story and get down with what's happening here and finish it. And I know that had to do, I know there's a lot on the back end. There was a lot of like, I don't know if it was budgeting, I don't know what it was, but the animators were very upset with the way that they had to rush this project. Like they very clearly
Mm.
had to rush this project. And for me, it's not even so much the animation, because while the animation goes down in quality, like I feel like some of the most famous horror films, the quality of them is not what it is today. Like we're not using CG in horror in our favorite prolific horror movies and film and TV. So like for me to hold Uzumaki and horror in general to like this other standard, it's not for me. So the animation actually didn't bother me at all. Like I watched the whole second episode. I didn't have a issue with it at all until I went onto TikTok and everyone was like, "I can't believe this. This is so
Mm.
bad." Blah blah. But there's something about it was in black and white, and it was this story that isn't of today's age necessarily. Like it doesn't take place, I don't think, in present day. And it really didn't bother me, but the only part that I was sad about was the rushing of the story that I really felt. Like there were kind of they filled in all of the holes and questions I had as far as why things were happening, but like there was no further explanation. Like, and it's a really fascinating story. And so I
Mm.
wish that we had gotten more story. I didn't care how it looked, but I wish we had gotten more story. It kind of left it
Yeah,
feeling like that.
that's too bad. I know we'll talk about this when we talk about themes later, but this isn't the first anime this season to get a pretty big outcry, I think, of complaints. Do you feel like do you feel like because you just called something out that was really interesting. You said that it didn't really bother you as much until you saw it on TikTok. Do you feel like there's a little bit of kind of like groupthink happening where people are getting amped up a little bit just from like a bunch of people talking about it, or do you feel like you know it's one of those situations where once somebody points it out, you just can't help but notice it, and then it ruined the experience? Like, what's your take?
No, so I'm happy you're asking that because I would like to clarify. It never ruined my take. Like, it never ruined my experience watching it. I was never upset with the animation, but it was really so brought to my attention of like, oh yeah, I guess it is really bad now. after I was
Yeah.
on TikTok. But I do definitely think there's a little bit of a hive mind. One person makes one video, it goes viral,
Right.
and everyone wants to hop on the trend. Like I get that. I think that's just like the age we live in with the internet and content and so forth. Like if the hot buzz is how bad the animation is in Uzumaki and we can all make jokes about it and blah blah blah, or we can all talk about why it's bad and what happened behind the scenes. If someone we all
Right.
read the same article and we all wrote a report, like I think that happens, but it definitely didn't ruin the experience for me. I think if people are saying it ruined the experience for them, I think that's like I think that's too bad.
Interesting.
But all the same, I'm happy I watched it. Like I would still recommend people watch it. Okay, it's like what is it, an hour or two of your time when you watch it back to back? Like someone could finish that in a night. It's 4 episodes, you know?
Right. One thing I didn't know is that there were two different like in-house teams from Production IG and Adult Swim that worked on this. So I wonder if there
Hmm.
was like any challenges they faced, kind of like working together and trying to adapt this story into maybe like a few episodes really quickly. Like maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, I mean there had to have been something. I from what I understood, I think it was something with budgets. But again,
Sure.
like I didn't, you know, wanted to know why, but I didn't want to keep like falling into this narrative of like it's bad because the animation's bad because I didn't think so. I'm like it's supposed to be creepy. Like now they're just moving kind of weird, not as fluid as they were, which like is just only making it more creepy for me, which like to me is the point of something that is horror. Like it's supposed to make me feel uncomfortable.
And it did.
It did. It
Yeah.
totally did. I still like I mean, we watched it every week. Like we were really for 4 weeks like, oh man, we gotta watch Uzumaki before bed. And we would even put it on the phone and we would like sit and like turn off all the lights and just like watch it. It was anyway, yeah. I still thought it was good. I still liked it, even though objectively the animation goes the first episode.
Sure. Cool.
What are you watching?
Yeah, thinking about something that stands out to me right away. I think the first thing that I'll talk about is ReZero, and I think that ReZero has this reputation of being confusing and difficult to kind of um, track what had happened versus what actually hadn't happened because there's that kind of the time element to it where he can undo things by return after death. What is it called? I forget the actual power. But when he
Mm,
dies and I don't know if reincarnated is the right word, but he dies and goes back to moments before. Significant moments before he actually died, so that he can try to change the eventual future. That's destined to happen or whatever. I've said this before on our podcast that ReZero, even though it's like one of my favorite isekai by far, is confusing. Like I agree largely. I seldomly find myself going like what is going on in another anime, but here I often find myself a little bit lost. That said, I think that was especially true for the previous season, and I think a lot of people fell off and maybe didn't finish the previous season, and I could understand why. Especially the first core of the previous season, I could really understand why. There were lots of things that were happening that were just a little bit confusing, and even though the moments felt tense, I don't think that the tension was palpable enough for people to be like really excited about what was going on. Although I think that the previous season ended really well, this season is really off to a good start. I think it's very clear. We know all the key players. We can see clear character arcs that are taking shape in a really exciting way. We can see some really great fighting even in the beginning. We see some characters immediately showing their growth from previous seasons in new and fun ways, and I'm really enjoying it. I would not be surprised, and I should have looked. I wouldn't be surprised if it's currently the highest ranked anime of the season so far in fall of 2024. I think everything from the voice acting to the story to the animation to the music to the voice acting, everything. I think it's really well done right now, and I know that you're going to be catching up, and I'm really excited for that because I think it's one of those one of those anime this particular go around that I think from the very beginning brought me right back in and has me excited for what's to come. So
I think even, to just echo something that you were saying earlier, I'm one of those people that was also just so confused in season two. At least,
yeah,
but to your point, totally in the first core. Because the second
yeah,
core really, I think, grounds in an interesting way. Like we all have the one objective, I think, in the
yes,
second core. Again, I haven't watched it since it was airing. But
yeah.
I think even if I go to watch the newest season, I'll have to like watch either rewatch the last season, but more than likely watch like a 10-minute like this is what
Explanation.
happened. And then
Yeah.
I'll go, oh right, 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 right.
No. I was just gonna say it. I recommend that for anyone who's lost, but like is on the fence about whether to rewatch ReZero this season. I have to say that in particular, one of the things that they've done really, really well is their use of villains, and I'm not going to expand on that at all because I don't want there to be any spoilers. But I think one of the things that they have done particularly well with multiple villains is it, that they've been able to create these characters that make you feel some type of way in very distinct flavors that when combined together and you're just assessing the overall threat make you feel really stressed for the main characters in a really good way but also in a really thrilling way, and I haven't seen that in a long time. I think that their weaving of the ensemble and the villains in this season is a true testament to the writing, and I think builds really well on everything that we've seen before in ways that you might not expect. So I'm team ReZero right now. I think it's probably one of the best things I've seen all year for sure.
Wow, even all year.
I think so. I think so. Nothing else comes to mind that feels as consistent, as steady as yeah, as something I'm excited for. And again, I'm not a manga reader here, so I have no idea what's coming next, and I'm pretty excited.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a biased question.
Yeah.
But are you enjoying ReZero so much because the last time ReZero was airing felt like a I don't know, like what when because we were also roommates and we were watching it weekly together
Uh huh.
the last time that it was airing, right?
That's a good question. I think
Because
so.
it was airing with Attack on Titan the final season and
Maybe for the
ReZero.
first core, maybe the first core of that season. It's
Yeah.
possible that the second core we weren't. I don't quite remember. To your point, it's been a while. To your point, it's been a little while.
My question was, are you like because I feel like it was coming out at such a great time of anime, are you feeling a
Hmm.
little bit like nostalgic of that time?
No.
Not having to be like seeing me every day, but I mean like
Yeah.
anime at that time was like
Yeah.
so electric for some reason.
No, I don't think so. I think that like there was always this a little bit of like I'll watch ReZero knowing that it might take a couple of episodes for them to lay all the groundwork because one of the things you have to admit about ReZero is that there are a lot of complex themes. There are lots of like little storylines kind of mixing together, and sometimes
Hmm.
that's what makes the season so confusing too, because you're not really sure what's going on, and they sometimes just don't tell you until like really the end of the season.
Yes.
And so I think that there's a little bit of I don't know what the right word is, but there's disenfranchisement. That's the best word I could think of that I have felt in the past two cores, knowing full well that when it comes full circle by the end, I'm gonna be like I'm gonna love like every I'm gonna appreciate what they've done to get there, right?
Mm.
But I wouldn't say that I was as excited as like let's say Attack on Titan when that final season was coming out to watch every single week. It just felt like one of those ones that I had to because if I didn't, I was going to quickly lose what was going on. I don't feel that same way this time around. I feel like we
Mm.
have all the knowledge that we need. There's been a ton of character growth, and it's time to see it in action. And they're laying out the story from the beginning, and you see everything they're up against, and yes, I still don't know how they're going to overcome this mountain of, you know, difficulty that they have lying ahead of them, but I'm along for the ride in a way that I didn't always feel before. So I think it was a little tiring, right? Because it sucks to not know what the heck is going on. And
Hmm.
I don't feel that way now. So yeah, I think it's a little different than just like the regular nostalgia. I think that they've really turned a key. What's the term? They've turned a corner. That's what it
Turned a
is.
corner. Yeah, I
They've
think
turned a
that's.
corner.
I think just to echo and bring in the what you were saying that made me the most excited was the idea of all of the context of ReZero coming together to be the point of what we're doing, of what it was all
Yeah,
for. Like, I love that idea that it's gonna be like this was for a reason.
yeah, exactly.
Talk about another anime that I'm super excited for. Unless you had
Yeah.
something else to add, I'm
No, no, no. I want to hear.
gonna shift gears to DanDaDan.
Yeah,
Because Dawn to Dawn is something that of the sudden out of nowhere, everyone's like, "Oh, Dawn to Dawn this season. Oh, Dawn to
yeah,
Dawn's coming out. Oh wow, Dawn to Dawn. It was everywhere over Anime NYC. Dawn to Dawn, Dawn to Dawn. This, Dawn to Dawn." I'm like, what is Dawn to Dawn?
yeah.
So then I watched the trailer, and then I was like, "Oh, this looks like it's gonna be real good, actually." And it has been. I actually really have been enjoying it. I'm one episode behind because last week was toughy for me, but it was almost really let down because, like, again, a similar experience that I might have talked about with Perfect Blue. There is like themes of like SA in the first episode with like, a young lady, and it was there was no warning, or at least I didn't
Right.
see it, so I was kind of like caught off guard. I don't like that. I don't like when I'm caught off guard with those themes. Like, I thought I was gonna watch like high school kids run around and, like, I don't know, like solve a mystery and fight monsters, and then all of a sudden there was like SA, and I was like,
Why
I don't
is it
like.
always that in the first episode? Like, why? And it almost never comes up again. But like, why do they do that? I don't
That's my
understand.
thing. That's my thing. I was like, okay, really off put by that, even though, like, I like the idea of this. I like that she's into spirits and he's into aliens, and now their two worlds are like totally overlapping and affecting the other person in a way that I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, well, now we have to work together. Like, I like that idea. Like, usually it's either, I don't know, I feel like it's always spirits. I feel like there's always just spirits and monsters and stuff. So I think the alien thing is going to be uh, really cool to have them together and watch them play together. So being that off put by the first episode, but also being like, I am still interested. I watched, of course, like episode 2 and episode 3. And I'm like, oh yeah, like the music is so good. The soundscape is so good. They're so funny. Their lines. Like, I have these moments where I'm like laughing out loud. And I'm like, I love this. Like, the characters feel so, you know, in a way where I don't even know how I have the grounds to say this, but like they feel fresh and unique.
Yeah,
Like, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but like it feels like it's like a really popular um shonen, I
yeah,
believe, that's just like different. Like, and I love that. I love when I see that kind of thing, and I think we see it more and more. There's always like one shonen a year where I'm like, this shonen is different. But yeah, and like I'm like basically a mega fan of Momo now. Like, a mega fan. I think she's an actual rock star. Oh my God, the way she kicks and punches, I'm like, seriously, you're such a tough cookie. And the way that they like all the glints of like their friendship, maybe romance blooming, makes me so excited.
yeah. It is really kind of shocking how, I don't know, a title that really did, I agree with you, kind of came out of nowhere is suddenly exploding. And I do agree with you. Like, I feel like once a year we have this, right? Like, it was Freerin and, you know,
Yes.
like I
Spirit
just
and
feel like,
Apothecary Diaries.
and Apothecary Die. I agree with you. Like, I just feel like I am surprised that folks who have read the source material weren't louder when this was coming out. And I don't know, maybe it's a sign to trust when a title's being heavily advertised that it airs slow. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe they knew something we didn't. But
Mm,
I am also thoroughly enjoying it. I can't quite put my finger on it about why I think it's so funny. I because I it's not like I would say that in anime it's uncommon for characters to uniquely be themselves, and for there to be these kind of quirks that make these characters very interesting. But there's something about the dialogue in DanDaDan and the, I don't know, it's not like they're perverse, but they're not shy about using really any language in any context, or just being kind of gross in a not off-putting way, obviously, but it's very unapologetic in a very
Yes.
fresh way, right? Like they
Yes.
don't really care
Yes.
what's going on, especially in like the newest episode, which I will not speak on because you're watching it right now. But it was interesting, like just seeing the them play with all of the potential dynamics possible of like what does a young granny look like and how does that affect a group, boy versus girl, both high school age, their awkwardness, like they take advantage of all these like little nuances of society in a really, and exploit them in really funny and fun ways. That's like what I'm observing. Even the
Mhm.
even the fact that like a granny is like the villain in the first arc of this show, and they're calling her Turbo Granny, which is ironic, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And like how elderly people are typically considered like extremely respected in Japanese society. I like just
Mhm.
even having that in place is probably like really interesting for them. I don't know. It's a blast. Do you okay? Wait, I have to ask you a question because you know that the opening for DanDaDan is the same. The opening song is created by the same people who made, oh gosh, what's the Mashal theme?
Mashal.
What's the name of that
Creepy
song though?
nuts.
Yes, yeah. So
What's
like
the name of that? Oh, the
I don't know.
they're the shoot. Now the only one in my head is
Dun
Don to
dun dun
Don.
dun 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 dun. But I don't
Bring,
remember the name
bring,
of the song.
bring, boom, 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 bring, brum, bum, bling,
You,
bling, blang, blum, 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 something like that.
you nailed it. Which one do you like better?
You know, you don't know because here's the thing. I think the don 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 like that goes on for like one measure way too long. Where I'm like, oh my god, just get to the fun, like like so. But that first one, I mean, that first one
Yeah,
goes absolutely out the gate hard. So I'm just like,
I'm in agreement with you.
I think I have to say Mash takes it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, I have to say that the opening to this next anime is not nearly as fun as DanDaDan's, but or is it Dan? What is the name of the? What is this DanDaDan? It's just DanDaDan,
I
right?
don't know. I think the name is Don Don.
Yeah, yeah. It's just two. Okay, all right. I was going crazy there for a second. It's been a while since I've really felt that Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon was just an enjoyable, I don't know if I could call it a palate cleanse because it's definitely in that shonen category that I enjoy watching, and there's great fight animation, and there's a lot of things in it that I enjoy when watching an anime. Having said that, though, I think that this season has been stellar, and it helps that much like ReZero, it starts right out the gate teasing. Well, I wouldn't say that ReZero did this, but much like ReZero, it builds on previous seasons. That's what I was going to say. But what it does is it kind of teases um, the fans by coming across as a typical start of all of the previous seasons, which usually revolves around this very pure boy being somewhat either manipulated or like teased because there are girls who have crushes on him and he like does not know how to handle that situation. Like he's just a pure innocent boy who already has a heart for someone else and like is difficulty like telling people no, but just out of pure respect, and like dances around it, and people notice that and they try to take advantage of it, and like that's how a lot of the seasons happen, and then something happens where all of a sudden that girl is like needs to be rescued, and then the whole season is about that. And to be fair, there are elements of that here, just like other seasons. However, one of the one of the new things that they've started to use is the involvement of the different gods of the universe. And that just this past week there was this like huge reveal that a character that we've known as an ensemble member from the very beginning is not actually a character. It's a god disguised as that person.
Ooh.
And like you never could have guessed it. And it's just it was I hope I don't stand alone as uh is around Twitter Girls in a Dungeon fans by saying like it was a complete shock to me. I had no idea. I'm sure everyone who's already read it knew and was and felt superior as a result of that, and I would too. Like I, it's a huge it was a huge reveal, but I am really enjoying it, and it's got slime that time I got reincarnated as slime like qualities in that there's something just very refreshing and comforting and a very stable, consistent, you know what you're gonna get anime that
Hmm.
occasionally is gonna have like really great fighting scenes that like don't normally meet the world. Like you wouldn't expect them to be as good as they are.
Hmm.
Um, and I think so. Like for me, having Slime last season and having Dungeon this season has been really, really exciting. And quite frankly, one of the main reasons that I keep my High Dive account is to be able to continue to watch this series because it's
Mm-hmm.
really, really good. So for those of you who are looking for, who love Slime, for example, and just love even the episodes where they're not fighting all the time. Not every anime needs constant fighting. I would encourage you to watch the show. It's really fun and has my attention. Honestly, I'm watching a lot right now, and it's in my top three, maybe top four. Easy, easy.
So exciting. And then like with the whole season, I guess like taking a broad look at everything and everything that we've talked about, what do you think are some common themes like that are happening in this like 2024 season?
Yeah, a couple quick things that come to mind. Number one, I think what we're seeing is that a lot of animation studios are under really tight deadlines and are finally at a point where the work is that is hampered due to those restrictions, those time restrictions, those budget restrictions, are really starting to show through to people who watch anime in a much more obvious way. And I think part of that also is because you have some other titles like Bleach, for example, that is every episode is almost, you know, feature film level. Even One Piece for
Yes.
that matter. Like Toei is going absolutely off right now. I was watching a quick TikTok the other day about a fight that happened in One Piece. I think it was a couple weeks ago where like there was this guy who punched a wall and through the shards of glass that were attached to that wall that was now like disintegrated from his punch. You could see like little snapshots of that character throughout his life and like how he looked different and how that punch was like a culmination of moments through his life as he got stronger and like you could see that from the shards of the glass. And you, oh, by the way, you only see this if you pause and you look at this episode frame for frame. Otherwise, you
Wow.
would like potentially not even see it. And like that's the level of like what Toei is doing. And then there's tons of complaints. You mentioned one at Uzumaki, and we're going to talk about another one with Blue Lock. There's a lot of controversy there, but yeah, I think that's a big common theme. But on a more positive note, I think the other major thing I'm noticing is that a lot of these anime that have been around for a while, they're in their second, third, or fourth season, have done a great job of jumping back into the story in ways where you don't feel like it's going to take 3 episodes to deliver the plot. And sometimes
Mm.
when that happens, it feels really rushed and it goes down a bad way. But this time it feels really sustainable. I'm seeing that in ReZero, and I think they're doing an excellent job. I'm seeing that in Dungeon. I'm seeing that in, well, Bleach is a continuous and it's straight heat through and through. But I think even, animation gripes aside, I think Blue Lock does a great job of being like, okay, remember what we're here for and go. So I think that we're seeing a lot of that, and that can be really tough to do, especially when you're in like a season 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Where there's got to be a reason that the previous core ended and the new core is starting, and it can be challenging to to ramp up, but to like ramp up quickly enough so that you don't lose your audience. And I haven't really heard
Mm-hmm.
a lot of complaints this season from anime fans. Now that could be, and this is going to be my third and final take, because for example in Crunchyroll the comment section is gone. So it could just be that, I don't know, we're seeing a lot less negativity, and maybe that's impacting our experience. We were talking earlier about how that can
Mm-hmm.
happen, right? Once you hear something, it's sometimes a little hard to avoid it. But this being kind of the first full season, if not summer, but the first full season, I'm realizing where we don't have a comment section at all. And I just think that's really interesting. Like I think when you look at the thumbs up, thumbs down, for example, in Crunchyroll, it's disproportionately a lot more thumbs up than thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously like 5 or 6 trolls that you see, but like not having comments is really interesting. I'd be curious about your take on that, by the way. Like do you feel like, do you ever catch yourself going to look at what the comments say about something that you just finished only to remember that it's not there? Or like at this point, are comments like a big part of your watching experience?
Honestly, no. I mean, and I think it's just because like if anything, I will see things online if I scroll, but
Yeah,
like a lot of times I'm too busy to really look into it in that way unless we're looking into something for the podcast and I'm like really trying to understand something. Um,
yeah.
but I mean, again, like the only negativity I've seen with anything this season is Uzumaki. And
Hmm.
now I'm starting to like kind of get the sense that people are not as thrilled with Blue Lock as they were in the first season, and of course we'll talk about that um relatively soon. But honestly, no, like I don't read the comment section on Crunchyroll. There's no time. I'm usually just like on my phone or I'm on the TV and like I don't. I
Yeah,
mean, maybe they were on the phone, but like I never looked at them.
yeah.
Did you really look at them?
I do.
Seriously?
I definitely do. Yeah, because I mean, obviously not anymore. Can't. But I did.
Yeah.
I was curious, like especially if I ended an episode that I thought was, either on either side of the scale, incredible or really concerning. I would go see what other people thought, and sometimes
Mm.
it hyped me up even more, got me even more excited. But anyways,
You
that
used
was.
to do that on X or Twitter, I feel like. I feel like there
Mm,
when I was more active on there, I'm not active on Twitter like basically at all now. But when I was or like when premieres would happen, like even oh my God, I was just talking about like Scandal. This is so far back, but like the Shonda Rhimes Scandal show, every week they would have like a live tweet kind of like talk back with the cast or we're all like responding and stuff. And I'm like, there were times where like comment sections or like live, you know, comments were big part of my watching experience, but I think as I'm just so old and there are so many things to do
so
all of the
old.
time, I have stopped looking at the comment section and I have just watched what I can when I can and I've formed my own opinions so I can talk about it here on this podcast.
Yes.
And with
Well,
that, thank you so much, Binge Monster. This has been our anime show. I'm a Green Queen.
and I'm binge monster.